All right. So welcome everybody for the second June meeting of the Aerial Robotics Working Group. So now it's a discussion or slash developer meeting. So we picked a topic last time. We had a nice presentation for drone for bats from MPX and XP, sorry, semiconductors. And there we picked that we're going to talk about swarm communication, swarm management, to swarming within UAVs. And that's going to be the main topic of today. So just the agenda, just some very short, very tiny introduction into the topic. Then I've selected a couple of discussion topics, let's say, that we can discuss, but of course we can add any more if we like. And then after that, because we only have a small hour, we'll talk about some technicalities for the working groups, like how are we going to deal with the summer schedule. Also the announcement presentation next meeting. Yeah, because for the summer, perhaps we would like to reduce the amount of, because now we have a meeting every 2 weeks. Perhaps we want to kind of reduce that rate. Yeah, so that is kind of the idea. So yeah. So first of all, I would like to go into the introduction, and somebody, yeah, it was you, Tito.
Yeah,
Very
it's
very
not
nice.
me. It's not me. It's from papers, right?
Yeah, of course, but like you gave a very elaborate answer on the discourse thread that I've opened. That's I felt like it's a good preparation that nobody answered until you did,
Yeah,
and you had a couple.
I thought you were a bit alone, and I wanted you to feel that we were here.
Yeah, I very much appreciate it. Yes, I felt very. No, but it's fine. Like it's always a tryout, and if nobody answers, then I'll just have the discussion here, right? Anyway, so you had a couple of definitions of, like, what is a swarm exactly, because swarms is perhaps indeed a controversial term. It's like either like a swarm of UAVs is a set of aerial robots that work together for a specific goal. That makes sense, I would say. Or a swarm is generally defined as a group of behaving entities that coordinate to produce a significant or desired results, which are, I would say, already quite good definitions of the name swarming, or swarming for UAVs in general. But of course, what we're going to talk about in this discussion is more about swarm for UAVs and what difficulties, what kind of challenges we face with that. So that's it's kind of more of the practicalities of swarms.
Sure.
So I actually, during my PhD, I actually worked on some swarms myself, although I'm not sure if you would call like six tiny drones a swarm. But during my PhD, I had to have a swarm of these very tiny crazy flies had to explore completely by themselves through an indoor environment without any, let's say, global positioning system. So they had to do that also completely by themselves. They had to communicate peer to peer, but I also had to get data back to the ground to the ground station in order to be able to make a nice plot for the paper. So purely mostly academia and academic research in this, but I've struggled with a lot of challenges with just
It's
6 of them. So that was
surely
quite
it's actually impressive. And just the curiosity, were you using map for the SLAM algorithm, or
no, no
no?
slam. No, they're using bug algorithms, which is just like a combination of wall following algorithms and goal. Yeah, wall following and goal reaching and making sure that they don't. So it's not an exploration in the sense of making a map. It's an
Mhm.
exploration, let's say, of being able to disperse in an indoor environment, and it's
Okay.
all on the SCM32. So it couldn't be SLAM, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Also because sometimes they would actually lose connection with the ground station that was only there for telemetry, and the ground station wasn't doing for anything. So anyway, I I sometimes feel that I have experienced the pain of swarm, also doing swarm research with drones, but for indoor purposes, so only in small subset of that. But of course, like this is done in the sense of exploration, perhaps, or like search and rescue. Like the fields that you can use swarming in is of course yeah, shows, obviously, crop surveillance, biology research for actual swarms, like flocking. So that's also what they sometimes use these for. Perhaps anybody can name any other fields as well where swarms of UAVs might be used.
I know large structure inspection is usually envisioned as I don't know an application for swarms of for multi UAV applications.
Yeah. So indeed,
Like
you mean like in warehouses and things like that?
warehouses,
Mhm.
bridges, and also I don't know how you call it in English, windmills or
Yeah,
large turbine.
Yeah, that was
or
the
power
drones for
lines.
bat. Yeah, power lines, power line. Yeah,
Yeah, power line inspection is also very envisioned because actually they use helicopters for now, and of course,
yeah.
helicopters are better.
So I guess infrastructure inspection, perhaps is that
Yeah,
maybe an
infrastructure inspection is I think, for
infrastructure inspection. So that's indeed a very good one. Um, you mentioned one more.
There's also drone light shows.
Yeah, I guess I had light shows on top already. Light shows.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
But for instance, I
Others?
don't follow closely light shows technology evolution, but from now on, it has only been centralized control. So from
Yep.
what I know of, it's really
I would say natural disaster. So, like including relief efforts. So, wildfires, hurricanes. Um,
yeah. Search and rescue, or it's more of like, just to kind of assess the situation or something like that. That is
it's
perhaps also.
also uh, telecommunication infrastructure where you actually have multiple drone finding the best position to provide network connection for I don't know network reestablishment after a natural disaster, for instance, when the antenna goes down and you want to recover the network as fast as possible.
Yeah, the communication network recovery or something like that. Recovery or I'm just going to write that.
Yeah, it can be
Yeah.
recovery, or it can be in a place that usually doesn't welcome as many people as there is. Like, for instance, I don't know, a large event in the desert, and you would like to have more base stations, and you actually don't want to deploy fixed base station in this place, and then you just put a
Yeah.
5G gateway in a drone and make it fly for the whole day.
Yeah, that's also a very good way. I think probably the communication network thing would cover that a little bit.
Sure.
Indeed, but those are very good possibilities indeed. Yes. Anything else? Yeah, I think this probably covers most of it. It's like one of those things is perhaps like in the future there might be more applications popping up here and there. That's always a possibility. But at least we
Oh,
kind of
I mean, delivery. We didn't put delivery in there.
delivery. Yeah. Is that something that is swarm related though, or
Well,
yeah?
I don't know if it's swarm related, but it's at least multi UAV related because for large package delivery, some people are investigating multi drone cable charge lifting.
Ah, yeah.
Like when you attach cable for to each drone to a large package, and you're able to lift it. You wouldn't be able to lift it with a single drone, but with multi drone, you're actually able to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen a couple of papers in ICRO for that. That's indeed a research topic as well. Haven't seen any industrial applications yet.
Not yet, not yet.
No,
It's
no,
mostly
yeah.
academic for now.
So, but it's always good if there are people already start researching if it's possible. Um, all right. So let's just go ahead in discussions. Perhaps, yeah, Ramon, do you have access to this slide by any
Yeah,
chance?
I do. Oh no, sorry, I don't do, but I was gonna ask if you could send the link
Yes, I will send you the link.
and I can take notes for you.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Because I'm very bad at doing two things at the same time, unfortunately. So yeah, that's why we're used to have two. Okay, so
Yeah.
I guess like the first topic is about like, okay, why is, well, I guess we've already talked about why multiple vehicle management is important for UAVs. We've already established quite some fields, industrial fields, research fields that have been, that are currently being where it's currently being used. I guess like also maybe the other sub question is like, shouldn't swarm management be more of a topic of a separate working group? Yeah. So any thoughts, any ideas about that?
I mean, I guess that is, I mean, it is a really good question, but I think maybe where's the novelty in the aerial working group from a robotics perspective if we don't consider coordination of multiple agents, right? Because there's a lot of available platforms like PX4 and RGPilot for achieving kind of the control piece of autonomy. So I think that where this working group could really have an impact is in the planning and coordination piece.
What I guess is what perhaps as a counter argument is like, because you do have like the open RMF software that is kind of like, okay, it's perhaps not really meant for UAVs, but it's meant to kind of handle heterogeneous fleets of, robots, let's say, to be able to coordinate maybe with each other. So like it could also be, for instance, that this could be a sub part of that, just as a counter, for instance. But like, why wouldn't we want to use OpenRMF for the coordination of multiple UAVs?
I mean, in its current state, it seems so hyper focused on like building automation and warehouse automation, and I'm just not sure that they have the scope for, the types of open-ended environments that UAVs operate in versus the highly constrained environments that, a building or a warehouse defines.
Yeah, when I looked at OpenRMF to try to look at fleet management, it seemed like it was from the ground up designed for warehouse type applications, and they hadn't, in their design, they hadn't really considered situations like aerial swarming. And so I mean, I think it's worth looking into, but I do worry that trying to use something like that would involve a significant refactor of it.
And it's by design a centralized scheduler, right?
Yeah.
So
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, but it's just that's the kind of like, of course, I guess when we were started this working group, we already realized that there's going to be quite some overlap with other working groups, like for instance with the navigation working group or the maybe perhaps like the embedded system working group. So that's why I'm just kind of like posing that question there. So like, why is this potentially something like, why would this would be something that we would in the future specifically develop for? But it's I guess
But that's not necessarily a bad thing though, right? Like UAVs is a very interdisciplinary domain, and shouldn't we just expect that it's natural that there will be overlap in other working group areas that are more generic in their definition?
Yeah, that's I think that's something that we actually want to perhaps like not necessarily encourage, but like, it's just something that to be aware of, that we're not going to try to develop things like a separate thing that's only for UAVs, while there's already something that's already exists for ground robots, that we don't try to integrate more UAV specific tools in that. So that is but I guess that's more of like a larger discussion, I would say, for this working group.
Well, if all we're doing for now is building a landscape of what's already there and mapping out the aerial landscape, I think we should be fine. Once we get more into discovering what's actually problems that we need to develop together, I think that's when we might come into conflict with other work groups, or where we can coordinate with other work groups to work together.
Mhm. It doesn't mean that we have to wait until that. I think Ryan, you're probably already talking with Steve in the navigation working group already, perhaps for that the
I
third
mean-
dimension.
I show up, but I don't have any active plans right now on working with him. We're at least for Arctic pilot stuff, I'm not there yet, and for work
yeah.
stuff, I'm not there yet either.
But perhaps like in the near future.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm keeping it on the table for sure.
By the way, quick commercial. I'm going to the ROS by the Bay meetup. If anyone's in California, I would love to meet you there.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going to meet
Where?
Steve there.
Where
Oh,
is
that's
it?
really nice. Yeah.
It's in San Francisco.
Yeah, in Tintrick offices.
That's coming up, right?
Yep, it's on Thursday. Well, tomorrow.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. I gotta
tomorrow.
plan out for tomorrow.
Oh,
Okay.
I'll like I have to book a ticket, guys. I'm ending the meeting now. Yeah, no, unfortunately I won't be able to. But do say
Yeah.
hi.
Yep.
All right.
Pretty cool, that
Okay, so I think probably it's good to go to the next page then. There's
Did-
no
did
notes.
we discuss?
Ramon?
Sorry. Oh, shit. I was into the conversation.
It's fine. We're going to have a transcript, so technically we don't even have to make notes. But it's
Oh,
up
but
to you.
that means I need to work on this later then, which I don't like. That's why I like taking notes.
Yeah.
One
Sorry,
question
but
though
what
that I
did
didn't,
you want to say?
I don't think, is it in the definition? I didn't read it. How many drones is a swarm?
Ah,
Oh.
yeah. Good question. 2.
Two, yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, that is heavily debated. I think anything below 4 is a team. Above 5 is where
Well,
where is
honestly,
the limit?
A swarm.
in the literature,
But
in the literature,
even-
nobody knows exactly where to place the threshold of what is a swarm, what is a team, what is a flock, what is a fleet. Everything is different from one author to the other, so I don't think it's
but
relevant.
the mission defines what a swarm is. Like what's the minimum number of vehicles you need to achieve the desired effect? So it's like the definition of a swarm is tightly coupled to the mission context.
Mm-hmm. True, but you can also have something like too many agents in your swarm, because then you will have the what's it again, the law of diminishing returns. That's
Well,
actually
it depends on what your objective is. If your objective is to deploy more drones and get revenue from it, then it's in line with your goals.
Yeah, that's true. I guess like for my research, I kind of found out that, for instance, for the area of that I was using during that doing those experiments, that actually 4 were already pretty enough to cover most of the area, and when I added 6 or 8, it didn't really add that much to the total coverage, and actually reduce the rate of drones returning, because sometimes they will bump up to each other. It's a problem. So it's like at least like it's the goal that I was achieving to cover as many rooms as possible. I definitely hit the law of diminishing returns. But yeah, if you have a clear sky and you can pack it with so many drones that you like, then of course you should go for it. But then you have to deal with the communication issue, which is the next discussion, I think.
And I think in terms of missions, and what you can actually see in both academia and what's been done with the industry, I think the highest number of drones in the air in the same time is Intel record in the Guinness book, and it's for light show, and it was all centralized control. And on the other end, from what I know, the highest number of drones was 32 in a decentralized manner. Control, like each drone is fully autonomous. But I've never seen something higher than 32 at the same time in the same place. And usually it's more about like 4 to 10 drones.
What was the record for the centralized one that you said?
Oh, I don't know. It's like hundreds, I think.
Yeah, like if you've seen, I think it was last year's one of the Formula One Grand Prix. They had an amazing drone light show. It was either at Singapore. It was one of the night races. Maybe I can look that up.
The Intel record is 500 turns.
Okay.
No,
I
it's-
think they
it's
passed that
1,000,
already.
isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
Intel is
1,000, it's
doing
1,000.
yeah 1,500 at least. For the Olympics, they did 1,500.
More than a UN8. So I think that one of the main limitations was Mavlink itself only supported 255 unique IDs, and so that they have other layers on top of Mavlink that they're using for doing more than 255, which is pretty interesting.
So
to get
Intel is
around
actually
that.
using Mufflink.
I don't know about Intel, but I know talking to Tridge Pilot, I was curious how they were handling more than 255 in the swarms, and he said that they do other things on top of it.
Yeah, I like to add to that. The communication protocol is at the moment the biggest limitation, being Mavlink, with this ID numbering and not using unique IDs as it is used usually in the IoT world.
I guess that's a good point. We were actually discussing like the previous. I'm now moving to swarm communication because now we're actually talking about swarm communication. So should in that case we be able to support more than 250 guys?
Why is the bandwidth issue coming up?
It's just it's not necessarily a issue. It's just like a kind of a subtopic. But if you have other things that you think it's important also with the swarm communication,
I'm just asking because of the used technology, or because we, for example, have a broadcast communication module that can run with up to 27 Mbit, so on the 5.8 giga with an IP-based link. We have tested it, or we are using it on drones for drone-to-drone communication, so cooperative awareness. We can reach up to a range of 1 kilometer drone to drone and 3 kilometers ground to drone. So it's a broadcast network. We do drone to drone, drone to ground station over the same network. And we did a test we could handle with one single entity, and the requirement that all data, all current Mavlink data should be sent through in real time over 200 vehicles with one partner. So something like this might be an option to look at. So which communication technology to use?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Like a lot of things are related, of course, to hardware. So if you have the right hardware, or the right protocols, then things can be also solved.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that want to kind of perhaps have some thoughts about this particular topic by itself? Perhaps we can talk about maybe centralized versus decentralized, or
Yeah, I mean, for me, like one of the problems of a massive fleet is if you have a single ground station, that's a single point of failure for an entire fleet of drones. And so that, in a production system, you want to be immune, that you can put as many IMUs as you want in your drones for redundancy, but if you have a single ground station, then you're sort of asking for stuff to fail. And there's no point to adding all this other redundancy if you're going to have a single ground station. But I think that one of the main challenges in managing a large fleet is the configuration management. So you, like in Mavlink, right, you got to go program the unique IDs in all the drones. And then if you need to replace one in the field, how do you ensure that, oh, I accidentally set it to ID 124 instead of 122, and now two drones have the same ID, and I get undefined behavior in my system. So a way to manage a large fleet easily needs automatic configuration and discovery. So you can just, if a drone can get on the network, it can figure out its own ID and not conflict with the other ones on the network.
So that is going into the direction that a hardware-dependent unique ID is available.
Yep. But
Yeah,
and
but
used for
yeah.
the
I mean,
community.
isn't that what like IPv6 is moving towards for addressing?
yes.
But a lot of the radio vendors, at least the ones that we've been working with, don't support IPv6 yet. And so the limitations imposed by the tactical data link or radio manufacturers is a big limitation.
Is it something ROS2 and DDS could achieve, or am I completely off topic?
I mean, this is a hardware issue because, a lot of times the radio network will assign an address to the radio that you're connecting to, and I don't know of a way to get around that.
DDS operates at a layer higher than layer 2 and 3, which is where the addressing is. So you need to have a network with addresses and be able to ping each other to use DDS.
Yeah.
So what level is DDS at then, Ryan? Do you know?
4 and 5.
It's
4 and 5.
application,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And those you want all at least.
Then one
Yeah.
question I've always had, and this is something that we've dealt with before at the map link level, how do we generate a unique identifier for the hardware? And is it tied to the flight controller, to the modem, the radio link, or right now we at PX4 we sort of generate the UID from the hardware, but it's not always 100% reliable. Hardware can change. And for fleet management, that it really matters, because if you switch the flight controller on a drone, now that's a different drone. So if you tie it back to the flight controller, so in the swarm communication, in the swarm network, we do need to know what a drone is at any given time. So is it that we treat a drone like a persistent thing over time, or do we adapt per mission, I guess? And at the mission time, we define UIDs for everyone at the configuration level, which we know can change from one day to another. Like when you get hundreds of drones and you're working with them daily, that becomes a real issue. That's when automatic configuration matters and discovery of all things.
I
So, I mean, as
think we
far as-
need to distinguish between session IDs and hardware IDs, because we need to keep in mind what regulations are requiring. So we need to send out a direct remote ID. In future, if you fly BVLOS, you will get a flight approval for a certain mission, and the mission will be a flight plan together with a vehicle you have specified to the airspace authority or your U-Space service provider. And that would require then most probably a session ID for the combination vehicle plus mission. And you need to identify your vehicle accordingly. And also the certification and security is playing a role, because how you have to identify your vehicle in the network and which of the both are you using for that. So also secure identities need to be applied somehow. So I think that needs a little bit more thought through than doing a quick answering right away.
Yeah.
So by the way, we had a government-funded project here in Germany, UTVIO, which where we looked at that issue, and at the end we came up with hardware secure elements that at every flight got a certificate loaded, and the certificate was used to sign then the network ID to be able to verify that really the vehicle that was applied with the flight plan is used for the mission, something like this.
Does anyone know if UTM regulations, like let's say if you have a 30 drone mission, when you want to apply for that, do you have to send the mission for each of the 30 drones, or do you send one thing, like only one for them? Do you have to send all of them?
Do you mean, sorry, Ramon, do you mean that if you send a mission to one of them, that one particular drone is sending it to all of the other?
No, I mean for the
drones,
regulation
or?
perspective, like if you want to ask for authorization to fly this drone swarm pattern above people, and you need to authorize it. So typically it's a one-to-one relationship where one drone, it's certified, and you send the information for your drone and you apply for that mission. But if it's 30 drones at the same time on a swarm, how does that
Okay,
work?
so you're talking about regulation.
Yeah, I mean that just came up to my mind after the discussion.
Okay, yeah, that is a good point.
My experience from talking to regulation bodies is that the swarm flying use case has not even been thought through by regulations yet. So
Yeah, that's
at
what I
the
said too.
moment is one drone, one flight plan, one approval. If you come with a bunch of drones, then a bunch of requests, and a bunch of approvals. That's the
Yeah,
current situation.
it would be
But
nice to know what the drone light show people are doing right now, like how they get permission, because they are getting permission by FAA. But
yeah, but their arguments is that this is line of sight operation, and with line of sight operation, you don't need to supply a flight plan. You're just saying, and you even need to ask for permission if it is in open space. It only becomes a problem. For example, I can only speak for Europe. In Europe, you have regulations. If you are more than 150 meters away from urban areas, no problem. If you are not closer than 1.5 kilometers to an airport, no problem. You can operate whatever you like, yeah, up to 120 meters high.
thank you.
I guess
I'm gonna
it's
take
easier to
back the
have.
conversation. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. So like, I guess it's easier to have indoor shows then,
Yeah,
which
indoor
they
swarms.
slowly are starting these days. Yeah. So we have already moved.
I want
a
to
bit
close.
to swarm
Yeah, I want to
management,
close
but
communication though.
Yeah.
I didn't. I needed to. I wanted to ask what type. So we kind of said that IP-based networking would be better, ideal for mesh networking. But does any other network type work for swarms?
Wi-Fi indoor.
It doesn't need to be an IP-based network.
Mhm.
Also, you can work with any Wi-Fi based solution that does broadcasting. Yeah, and if you can make sure that all devices can receive the information, it can be any protocol. For example, in the first iteration of the hardware I've mentioned before, we were using directly Mavlink messages being sent out over Wi-Fi, and didn't make use of any IP-based addressing. in the lower level, yeah, there was some IP based, but it was just broadcasting addresses used, and it's just broadcasting what we are doing.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments here before we jump into simulation?
Yeah, I guess mostly comments about like we're talking about particular in protocols and like the practicalities of communications, the communication medium, let's say. So that's also very important. But at least like when I was putting this one down, I also kind of looked at it, was thinking about like a level, but above that, like okay, you have the communication there already. What to communicate, right? So you can, for instance, look at for an indoor scenario, but that's if, for instance, you have a mocap system and you want to send the position of each drone from the mocap system computer to each of the drones, while they also have to communicate even more or communicate with each other. That is also kind of like what is you cannot, for instance, like put a 100 Hz position broadcast to all of the drones at the same time. That's practically quite difficult to do that at a very low latency out scheme. So it's like, yeah, like how there are some kind of correlation of. So I don't know if anybody has some thoughts on that of like maybe not necessarily the protocol of communication, but what to communicate, what the swarms should communicate with each other.
I think the minimum is that every participant knows where the other participants are to be able to keep the swarm formation. So, and there you could say, yeah, there is already a specification for direct remote ID. Why reinventing the wheel? Let's use the messages that are there, which includes position, heading, speed, flight
Altitude.
level, altitude, exactly. So that is the minimum, I would say. And then you have application-specific things. Maybe that there is a handshaking between the devices. If you have one lead vehicle that tells the others what to do, but that's then application-specific. It's hard to say what should be included. I think minimum is the position thing.
Yeah, actually, minimum is nothing. You can do swarming without even having communication between nodes, right? I mean, there's some people doing swarming based on vision, and it's actually working great.
But how do you ensure safe operation in the case one of them fails? Like if you were able to check each agent's how they were doing to their assigned plan, you would be able to like institute some kind of recovery behavior if you notice that one of them is, about to crash with you or something.
Oh, no, surely. It's always better to have a communication link with the USVs, but I just want to say it's not necessary. Like,
yeah.
I mean, in real life scenarios, you will want to have this link because, I mean, nowadays every drone must have a way of taking back manual control with a controller, I think. I mean, at least in Europe. So you have to have this radio communication thing on the drone, but technically, if you don't care about security, you could do it only based on, I don't know, vision, sound, these kind of sensors.
Or perhaps like there's some research out there for relative localization as well. Like for instance, that they have ultra wideband beacons, they know the range to each other, that they were able to infer the other neighboring drones' position based on that. At least, relative to themselves, and then they're able to act upon it. But I guess if you have 1,000 drones and you have 1,000 of information, perhaps that might be a bit too much. But I guess this may be interesting to at one point get a presentation of somebody that has to deal with these massive like fleets for like light shows.
Yeah.
Does every single drone know exactly where all the drones in the swarm are?
There's many companies doing drone light shows that we could invite. I don't know, maybe.
I have a
Yeah.
personal contact with Colmot, with through Bitgrace. That's a Hungarian, and they use Autopilot actually for their. But I guess like Ramon, you probably also have a couple of contacts as well.
Yeah,
Although,
I know a few.
yeah, exactly. But I guess like maybe that's the question because this is a ROS working group.
Well, I know
Are they
one that
using
is
ROS?
supposedly using ROS or wants to move to ROS. They actually just released a development drone for swarms, and they sell the vehicles like for OEMs. They also do the shows, but they mostly sell the vehicles. It's called UB5.
Yes, I saw that name come up in Iker a couple of times.
Yeah.
Indeed, yeah.
I think they support both PX4 and Autopilot too. So
Yeah, it would be maybe interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure if like, of course that's just like at the end of the meeting. Then we need to.
Yeah.
Oh, we're actually
Yeah.
close to the end of the meeting. Damn.
yeah, let's move on to simulation before we close the discussion. Then, and I'll look for a guest so we can actually ask them what the actual challenges they are facing are, because I'm sure they're duct taping their way into drone light shows right now.
Yeah, I'm sure of it indeed. Yeah, but at least like we got a couple of like good input in terms of like what to think about. Yeah, swarm simulation. I've just put it in there because like we at Icor there was an aerial simulation workshop where this also was quite a topic. I wasn't unfortunately there, but it's usually like you have a generic robotics simulation, but it doesn't work well with large swarms. So that's like that's perhaps like because for instance like gazebo, if you put a big swarm in there, it's it's tricky. So but there's other simulators that are better for it. So I guess like maybe just like some general aspects of a swarm simulator, like is then communication simulation important? Is physics important? Like everything, of course, is important, but what is more important?
Scalability. Like it shouldn't be orders of magnitude harder to add another vehicle to your simulation. Like whether you have 2, 5, or 10, that should be something that you can easily spool up and not have huge resource limitations.
Yes,
I
very
agree completely.
or else it's not the swarm simulator.
Right.
Yeah.
This is also coming back to the configuration and be able to set up vehicles on the field with the actual hardware. On the software on simulation, it's sometimes even more painful to do than doing it in the real hardware.
To come back
The
on the
orchestration required.
communication point of view, there's no real communication simulation in the robotics simulators that we have. And for that, I think for swarms of drones, we really need to simulate quite accurately what's happening in the networking point of view and the communication point of view. And for now,
So
there's no
packet losses, for instance, right? Or like yeah.
What propagation is happening and what I don't know if there's congestion in the network, if there's I don't know, it's just there could be like multiple issues. And for this, I think from the review that I did is that we need co-simulation with a real network simulator. And for that, I mean, I'm building right now a NS3 paired with Gazebo simulator to see if this could be working. But it's kind of the I don't know, super I don't know, like it's maybe too much to use NS3 because NS3 is a large simulator to configure and everything. But maybe I don't know, add a communication plugin to Gazebo specifically for some software would be fantastic. But I don't know if that's feasible, and it seems difficult to me. So yeah, for now, in my laboratory, what we do is code simulation.
Yeah, I
I think
think.
there's
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think there's two big things from my mind. One is, especially since these are like large degree of freedom complex systems, you want to have like a rigorous framework for experimental design. So like how you do parameter selection, how you do parameter optimization, and how you can, run, thousands of experiments and converge on an optimum configuration for your system. The other one are is modularity of all the components so that you can drop in models of varying fidelity without significant rework. So like if you want to have basically a simple stochastic model for packet loss, you could implement that. If you actually had a higher fidelity radio model, you could drop it in and adhere to the same interface, but have more complex dynamics of that component.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, indeed. Very, very good stuff indeed. Yeah, I guess there's probably a lot of things more that we can add, but I don't know about you, Ramon. We might need to kind of wrap things up, or is there some like another topic that we can just very briefly discuss? Since you have to go to your Q&A Peaks 4 community meeting, right?
Yeah, I need to drop, but you can stay. I think we
Yeah,
should
exactly.
follow up this conversation on the forums. I think we have a lot of good topics
Yeah,
there.
exactly. There's a lot of good stuff. Like at least like on Discourse, I started a swarm. To talk about swarms of UAVs, and perhaps like if you have any more thoughts about that, that would be good to maybe like continue the thread there, and maybe we can in the future we can circle back to this topic if there's more things for us to discuss, because like I said, it's almost worth its own working group, right? Yeah, so perhaps let's maybe move to the next. Yeah, thanks Ramon for sharing the Discourse link. Yeah, so perhaps like some kind of technicalities. So soon summer is coming. Maybe some of you will be working very hard. Maybe some of you will go on holidays. So myself, I'm going to be very occupied this summer due to personal circumstances. So perhaps also for me, but it would be nice to maybe have a kind of a reduced rate of the meetings itself. So I was thinking I still have the 7th of July or 5th of July planned, Wednesday, just 5th of July planned, but to maybe do it like once per month after that. Yeah, maybe just to kind of discuss. I don't know, what do you guys feel about that? At least
Well, basically take a break until August, right? That's what.
Yeah, or we can do a full stop until August. Yeah, that's also a possibility. So
we have plans for the next talk.
Yes, we have. I have the next slide for that.
Oh, okay. I mean, if we have one for the July 7th or July 5th, then maybe we just have that one and then reconvene in August or so.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
I do have some time in July, so what I will do is I'll look into everything we have discussed in the few meetings we have, and maybe start putting together a draft of the landscape that we are supposed to create. And,
well, I've already kind of half started. It's going
good. So maybe let's take this month to work on the actual document and coordinate Discourse with everyone.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good idea, and then we can just say that for the one on 5th of July is just going to be the last one before the summer, and then we can come back in August and we can announce it on Discourse when we're going to start again. And then soon it's going to be after that ROSCON.
Yeah. Anyone applying for ROSCON talks? I'm gonna try to make a talk on the landscape. hopefully we can.
We're
we
going
have
to
enough
work on
time.
that together, Ramon.
Yeah, that's why
we're
I
going
said.
together. Yes. Yeah. That's good. We're going to steal all your ideas and we're going to make it. No, I'm of course kidding. Like it's going to be kind of more of like also kind of the the draw like a UAV 101 presentation, right? Like, you know, what is the current state? What is the what is the like, you know, what are the so important aspects and why is it so difficult to have yeah, to have UAVs within ROS. So that's kind of like the idea for the presentation as well. Let's see if it gets accepted or not. I do think that it seems that open robotics is going to be quite interested in that talk. When I gave the talk about the Crazy Fly, actually one of the reviews were, "Oh, I actually want to have a quadcopter 101 presentation." Okay.
Maybe that's all we need to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to start
Um,
somewhere.
Yeah. Is there anybody else that wants to just quickly share some news from their end? Anything they're working on or no? Then I'll just continue to the final slides. So the next meeting, Wednesday, 5th of July, 2 p.m. Universal Coordinated Time. And it's going to be a presentation by Alejandro. He's if it's like a consultant at Open Robotics about the vehicle gateway. So he made a combination of APIs to combine things like was it PX4 and Beta flights together. So he's going to talk about that then. And of course, I would like to remind everybody about the GitHub organization for this working group and to, yeah, if you want to add yourself as a member, add an info page to the robotic landscape. Would be nice to have more people included in the contributors in there, but it's fine if you guys are fine with what we're writing. And of course, if you want to do a presentation too, perhaps then in August or later, or know anybody that can give a presentation, please send an email to me, Kimberly, or Ramon. The emails are listed right here. So then I would like to thank everybody for joining. And I will see you all in 2 weeks. And
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Thanks. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.